Welcome to the Basketball to Remix podcast. I am your host, Mark Armstrong. And as always, I'm excited to bring a leader in youth basketball here in Phoenix, Arizona, a gentleman I've had the opportunity to observe for several years, had the opportunity to do work with my teams in his leagues and his facilities, had opportunity to attend some of the tournaments he puts on. And I just think it's awesome to have who I think is one of the leaders in youth basketball in the Phoenix Valley on the podcast today. So it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Justin Peterson, founder of Just4Hoopin. Justin, what's good?
Thank you for the invite, man. I'm excited. I'm getting used to these Zooms, and it's pretty cool. So I'm here to make this thing happen.
I love it. Very cool. Very cool. Where are you from, Justin?
I'm sorry.
No, where are you from?
I was born in Omaha, Nebraska, but I've lived here for over 45 years in Arizona.
So you consider yourself a Phoenician?
Somewhat, yeah.
Yeah. So, how about you share that your path from Omaha, Nebraska to Phoenix, and what transpired to just before you started Just4Hoopin? I know from a brief conversation we had a few weeks ago, you shared a few things with me that I wasn't aware of that really stood out to me. One of my primary takeaways from that was you're very passionate about kids. So I'm interested to find out through your story from where you began to come into Phoenix, Arizona and get involved with Just4Hoopin, kind of what makes Justin Peterson the guy he is today.
I appreciate that, Mark. So I moved out to Arizona when I was really young. I went to Scottsdale Saguaro, SCC, and then graduated from ASU, Walter Cronkite School of Journalism. And that leads me to, those people that know me know that I'm not real big. I'm about 5'2". So back in the day in high school and everything, I wasn't big enough to really play the game. I played rec and whatnot. So I literally, I was in love with the sport. So I figured if I can't be in the NBA, I might as well just, do what I do and still be around that basketball. And that's how it all pretty much happened.
Walter Cronkite School of Journalism. Do you find yourself applying any of what you've learned in the journalism school and what you do today?
Absolutely. So back in the day, 25 years ago, I was the public relations director for Basketball Congress International, BCI. And that's where I got my basketball start. And it all started with Mr. Larry Walker. They had a tournament at Scottsdale Community College, and he asked me to help run it. And I did it. The next day, he asked me if I was interested in working. And I wasn't really interested because I love my job at Scottsdale. And after four phone calls, 4 lunches that I denied, I finally said, yep. And 25 years later, I moved up the ladder. So to answer your question, absolutely, PR. People think journalism is they think you just write for the paper, and it's not. It's, you get out there and it's public relations and it's writing and talking and mingling. So I absolutely feel that my degree is being put to work every day.
You mentioned mingling. I have observed you mingling before, Justin, and I say that with a compliment because you make it a point that when people come into your business and you do business with them, that you acknowledge them, you make sure that they're doing okay, that they have everything they need. If there's any concerns, to come address them with you personally. And I think that is such a professional touch in a space that often gets criticized for the lack of professionalism, the lack of care from the people that are considered the stewards of the space. So you've been doing the basketball thing for 25 years, for over 25 years. Sounds like 25 years, about 25 years?
Correct, yes.
Okay. So after you got into basketball, have you figured out what's your why? Like, why have you stuck with it with ultimately resulted in you forming an organization so that you could run a business and be involved with youth basketball.
Yeah, I mean, I've just obviously I love what I do, and I do what I love, and I tell the younger generation to find your passion and get paid for it. Find what you love to do and get paid for it, and so that's basically, I work in the morning. I don't even call it a job. I go and hang around at the basketball courts and make sure that and my motto is that if they're in the gym, they're off the streets. And for me, that's huge, because if the kids are in the gym and they're getting exercise, then they're off the streets. And I've just always believed in that.
You know, say that statement one more time. If you love what you love what, say that one more time.
I love what I do, and I do what I love.
I love what I do. I do what I love. It sticks out to me because that's on your summary on your LinkedIn page.
Yep. And that's, not a lot of people can get up in the morning and go to a job that, excites them. And don't get me wrong. I mean, there's struggles and stuff during the week and during the weekends with leagues and tournaments. But at the end of the day, if you treat people right and you show respect, it comes back around, tenfold.
100%. And I tell young people all the time that I'm all about purpose, find purpose, because when you find purpose, you wake up loving what you're doing, excited about the day. And that just gives you a whole different energy and a whole different experience. You filter the day completely different, as opposed to you're waking up and you begrudge it, right?
Absolutely, and I have a saying that you can get up in the morning and be pissed off at the world, or you can get up in the morning and conquer the world, and that's what I do. I get up every morning and I conquer the world.
Love it. I love it. Awesome. I love that 100%. That's rich. So, when did you form Just4Hoopin, and why did you form Just4Hoopin?
So I formed Just4Hoopin back in 2009. And I worked BCI for 25 years. And for those of you that don't know what BCI is, it's Basketball Congress International. And it was big out in the West Coast, what AAU was in the East Coast. So back in the day, before the shoe companies got involved, we had major tournaments in Arizona. We'd have 150 teams. We'd have the best players in the country out here. And without being, tied to a shoe contract, the best of the best were here. So that's how I got involved. And then my boss ended up passing away. He founded BCI. He passed away, and a gentleman from Dallas purchased BCI. He bought the name and moved it to Dallas. And I had just had a baby and a brand new son, and I wasn't interested in moving. I did get a phone call like 3 weeks later, and he said, "Hey, we can't do this without you." So I ended up living in a suitcase for the summer months and going to Dallas, going to El Paso, going to Colorado, and I loved it. But the main thing is that my son had to be with me. And so I did that for a year or so, and I just was here in Arizona, and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to start my own nonprofit, Just4Hoopin. And I was actually at the Mesa YMCA working as sports director there, and one of my guys at the Mesa YMCA, he created my logo for me. So that's how I got involved with it. So I stayed in the game, and and to this day I'm running leagues and tournaments.
So you have a long-term perspective on Arizona basketball compared to my perspective, which is short. So you have 25 plus years with Arizona basketball. I'm gonna say I have about 5 to 7. Now, I'm of the mindset that I see Arizona basketball getting better, but I have heard that I heard there's a period that Arizona basketball was really strong. Sounds like that might have been the influence of BCI. Then there was a period where Arizona youth basketball really fell off. That the out-of-state teams that used to come to Arizona stopped coming to Arizona, et cetera, et cetera. What's your take on that? What have you observed with regards to the ups and downs of the Arizona landscape, Arizona youth basketball landscape over the past 25 years?
Yeah. I mean, back in the day, basketball was strong here. I mean, you had you had Richard Jefferson, you had Mike Bibby, you had those guys, and then what happened was there was a period of time where the better players were actually going to Cali and playing on California teams. So that's kind of what happened with that. And then with the shoe companies getting involved and picking up players and taking them and everything. So that basketball kind of went down a little bit for a few years. And then as you can see now, there's a lot more club programs out here in Arizona, so it's starting to build back up. And we have some phenomenal players out here. It's just a matter of getting them on the circuit and getting them seen.
Yes. So, what's your business model for Just4Hoopin? I know you do tournaments and leagues, but when you, at the beginning of the year, the end of the year, when you're doing your strategic planning, what are the things you consider and as far as executing to drive the results that you're looking for?
Well, so what I try and do is so Just4Hoopin, I do tournaments, and then I do Just4Hoopin leagues as well, and I do the leagues out at the lab in Arizona Compass and whatnot. So I try and do at least one tournament a month, and then I try and do 5 leagues a year.
Five.
Yeah, okay. I try to do 5 solid leagues a year because what we do is we go 6 weeks, and then you have playoffs, and then usually they get a week or 2 off, and then they come back and play. Now, with that being said, back in the day, there was only a few tournament directors out there, and now there's so many tournament directors, so it's tough to compete week in and week out because we don't have the numbers like California does. So for us, if you have a tournament and you have 3 tournaments that weekend, now your teams have to pick what tournament they're going to, what they're doing. So I kind of map my schedule out that these are when my leagues are going to be. And then as far as tournaments, like I said, I try and schedule 1 a month.
Would you say you're the longest tenured tournament director in the Valley?
Yeah, I would say probably. I know that Gene Albee has been around for a long time. Ron Coleman's been, but see, these guys that are doing it, they put teams in my events. So, they've learned. I think Gene's probably been around, but I might be the longest running. Yes.
Yeah, because I know the Southwest, there's yourself. Not familiar with Gene. I'm familiar with, we have Phoenix Rising.
Correct.
I've seen Team Caesar come on the scene recently, the past couple of years.
Yep.
And you make a great point. So let me ask you this. We love the free market system. Competition drives better products and services. Do you feel the market is saturated right now as far as too many tournaments, or do you feel that it's the free market system, tournaments just step your game up to provide the bells and whistles to attract teams and families?
Well, I personally think that it's saturated. Back when BCI was around, the thing that we had on everybody was the fact that we had a mailing system. So we sent out 10,000 mailers a month, and this was before the website and the internet came about. So we had a stronghold of tournaments because we actually had all the coaches' addresses, and we did mail outs. Well, now when the internet came along, I mean, it helped us and it hurt us, because now every mom and pop can now run tournaments, because now they have the same access that we had back then. So, and to be honest with you, I love the competition. The competition makes me get up and makes me work harder every day. It's just tough when you have, 4 tournaments on a weekend, and now, teams are choosing, and, as opposed to having a 16 team division, you have a 14 division, and all other tournaments have a 14 division. So, that's my whole take on it. And we've tried to get together and coordinate where, people pick the tournaments, and we don't step on each other's toes, but it's just it's a tough business.
Yeah, and I've heard horror stories through other sources. So I'm not going to put you on the hot seat and have you go in more depth with that. We have to maintain our relationships with everybody.
Absolutely, absolutely, and the people that know me, I have nothing bad to say about anybody. There's great directors out there, and you come to my events and you know what I put on, and that's all I can say is come and try mine, and you'll see what I put on. I mean, last summer I had 110 teams in my summer blast. I had 4 teams from Australia.
That's awesome. Yeah, and you do run very well tournaments, both with the administrative piece with the coaching staff, the organizations, as well as providing a great player experience and parent experience. What do you find more challenging, running the leagues or running the tournaments?
I think that I enjoy them both. I think the leagues are a little bit tougher just because of the fact that you have to schedule for 6 weeks plus a playoff. And as a tournament, you just come in and it's the weekend and boom, boom, they're in and out. Whereas once again, the leagues, you got 6 weeks and you have a lot of special requests.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think you'll have up to 80 teams at any given time in the league. Is that correct?
Yeah, my fall league starts next weekend, and I have 60 teams right now. So
Nice.
I'm pretty well maxed out on that. So, but yeah, I've had 80 teams in the past.
COVID. So how have you managed to get through the COVID piece? Because it sounds like you're on the other side of it. You progressively, I think we're, as Arizona, maybe in stage 3, where businesses are opening, social distancing, et cetera. How has COVID impacted your business, and how has it challenged you to up your game to keep things going?
Well, yeah, I mean, COVID has done a lot to a lot of businesses, and my biggest thing is that if you learn how to pivot, you'll be able to handle the adversity. Basically, my fall league, I had 80 teams, and we had to stop it right that day. I mean, it was crazy, and then there was times where the gyms were shut down, and then they reopened. I started my league back up, and then 2 weeks later we had to shut down again. So right now with the guidelines, it's real important that we're following the guidelines that are given to us as far as exiting, entering, masks, sanitizing, and everything. But and like I said, I'm not the only one. All the tournament directors are going through the same stuff, and I'm the commissioner of the Piestewa games, and that's been put on hold now because we can't get any gyms on the reservation right now, and
Right.
we don't know when that's gonna start back up.
Right. How have what's been the attitude of the families coming to your events, having to make the adjustments? Have they been pretty cooperative and easygoing with it?
Yeah, I mean, the kids and the parents have been locked. They've been, I don't want to say locked up, but they've been, in the houses for so long that I have parents that are ready to get out and ready to play, and then I have other parents that are that are real, real precautious. So, and as a tournament director, you have to take all of those in consideration. And I run my league starts next week, so I'll run that. And I did add a live stream to my number one court at the lab, so parents are able to literally sit out in their cars and watch their kids play if they don't feel comfortable coming in. And I think that's the avenues that I think you'll see a lot of gyms go to now, is the live streaming, because some parents they're just not, they're ready to get back into the grind, and I respect that. I respect that 100%.
Absolutely. Agreed. I think we're going to see, when it comes to facilities, I think, and we'll talk a little bit more, but I think as far as trends in the youth basketball space, I think the next trend is people that are in it for the long haul. You have an established club team, you're in it for the long haul. This is what you want to do. You have to get a facility. You have to get your own space. I think that's the trend. Or you have to have that intimate relationship where you're not just a renter, but you're a partner in some form or fashion with the facility. So you have that level of access that a renter wouldn't have, for example. Real quick, before we pivot, Hoop Hall West is the premier high school tournament on the West Coast. We see Jalen Green there, along with Nico Mann, and two just phenomenal players who've played there. And you have been involved with that, running your Hoop It, one of your winter Hoop It Up leagues in concert with Hoop Hall West. My son has played in it. He loves the ability to play his game, then come in, watch elite high school basketball. That's being broadcast on ESPN. It's a great experience. How did you get involved with that? What's your role, and what's your perspective on the importance of having that tournament in the Phoenix area?
Yeah, that's one of my marquee events, and I really enjoy that event. So about 9 years ago, the Hoop Hall called me up and said, "Hey, we're interested in doing a junior division during our high school games. Are you interested?" And I said, "Yeah, what do I have to do?" And they said, "Just run it like your regular tournaments." And so it was a done deal right there. And so
absolutely.
So 9 years ago, it was at Grand Canyon University, and it was great there. And it was really cool because I had a team from Mexico come, and Oak Hill was there, and I had all the kids do pictures with the players from Mexico. So that was really cool. The coaches were cool. But so what happened is that after Grand Canyon applied to go D1, and once you go D1, you can't have those kids on your campus.
Gotcha.
So after that, they went to Chaparral, and the only reason they're at Chaparral is because that's one of the only schools that you can put the TVs up and everything for the games, because obviously the games are on ESPN, they're on ABC. So that's where that comes around. So I'm basically in charge of the junior division. So I bring in all the junior teams, and what's neat about it is that all the teams that play in the junior division, they get free tickets to go watch the older boys play. And for those of you that haven't seen it, it's amazing, because you have the best of the best in one gym, and the kids and what's really neat at Chaparral is that I'm in the auxiliary gym, and the visiting locker room is through the auxiliary gym. So those players walk through there, and the parents and the kids are they're in awe when you see a big 7-footer, 7-footer walk in. So that's one of my key tournaments. I really enjoy that, because at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to get the kids, where they see a vision where they want to be and where they want to go.
Love it. Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking. The fact that these little kids can see the next step so upfront and personal, and like I can do that. I'm excited about that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So in addition to having been in the tournament game for 25 plus years and a partner in one of the elite West Coast tournaments, you also manage a facility called the Lab, and I've had teams play at the Lab. I've had teams practice at the Lab. So, how long have you been managing the Lab, and what's been some of the pros and cons of running a facility? Because again, I think, like for example, we know that there's the facility in Central Phoenix, and that AZ Select operates out of, and they've had the benefit, since it's a private gym, to keep some things moving in the midst of all of this, which has been a benefit to their club program. It's been a benefit to their players, particularly those who were seniors last year. It was a benefit to them. So I see value in having a facility. If you put yourself in the shoes of a club organization, what would be some of the pros and some of the cons of managing your own facility?
Well, so about 2.5 years ago, I took over the Lab. It was called Supreme Court, and it was owned by another gentleman that he just got tired. He had other opportunities work-wise, so I took it over. And I immediately brought in Mo Ballin in, because as you know, to run a business, you have to have strong individuals and positive people around you to be successful. Right. So, you know, we immediately changed the name to the Lab. And what's special about the Lab, and you can attest to this, is that it's not anybody's gym. It's not the Gremlins. It's not AZ Select. It's open for everybody. We have rentals. We have Gremlins in there. We have fire in there. We have volleyball in there. We have roller skating in there. And that's my biggest thing, is I didn't want to tag a name on there where people can say, oh, you know, we're going into this place and they're taking our players. Because and people don't realize, I don't have a club program. I have Just4Hoopin. I don't have a club program. I have a ton of club teams that practice, and I know them all. But I think that's the pros on that for me, was to open the facility and just open arm and let people know that they can come in there and enjoy it. And it's a little secluded place, but you know, it's doing its part.
Absolutely. And I do think that so there needs to be facilities out there for guys that, hey, I'm not trying to build a program. I have a son, he wants to play basketball. We have 10 kids in the neighborhood. We're going to put a team together. I'm going to spend time with them, and I'm going to coach them. I can go to the Lab and rent time. As long as there's availability, and I'm the next guy in line, I can get access to the court. No politics, none of this and none of that. I can go and get access to the court. I definitely think there's something there. What have been some of your challenges with running and maintaining a facility? Because running a gym's not easy.
Yeah. How much time do you have? No.
Just a couple of bullet points. Just a couple of bullet points.
To be honest, you know, for those of you that have been to the Lab, and it's an older building, so it's an older structure. So that's my biggest issue is that it's constantly, we have to maintain it, and it goes from the plumbing to the air. I mean, we just literally got the air fixed 3 days ago, and I have 9 units on the roof, and out of 9 units, seven of them were down. So I was going with 2 units. So now we have air in the Lab. Everybody's excited. I
bet.
It's just little things like that. You know, it's an older building, and you just the upkeep is, you know, it's a challenge, but like I said, I get up every morning and I'm up for the challenge, because at the end of the day, that's a place for kids, parents to go and call it their own.
I like that. I like that. And for what people may not realize, at the time of this taping, we've been through a heck of a heat wave, a heck of a heat wave. So to have activities in a gym that should have 9 units and only have 2 units working, those 2 units were working overtime, and people probably were still sweating. So with that said, do you think, I want to get your feedback on my thinking. Do you think if you are a person and your thing is, I want to build a program, let's use the Gremlins. I'm the Gremlins. I want to build a program, and I believe they leverage several different gyms like most big programs do. Every program I've been associated with that had more than a handful of teams leverage multiple high school gyms or church gyms, et cetera. They got a network of gyms. Does it make sense for them to pursue their own facility as a model? Could you see there being any type of cost benefits, any type of development benefits of having your own facility as a club program, as opposed to renting from 5 or 6 different providers?
Absolutely. I think that if you have a club program and you're trying to build your program to an elite level, and when I mean elite level, I'm talking about where you travel, and because at the end of the day, and this is what I tell parents, is that, and I might be a little bit off here, but I tell parents their ultimate goal is to get their kids scholarships. That's their ultimate goal.
Great.
If you can save $80,000, then you're doing your job. And so during the summer, these teams, they have to go to at least 2 or 3 major events out of town, out of state, where coaches are looking at them. And I always say, you got to at least get to California, Houston, and Vegas. I'm not a big Vegas fan, but they run big events over there. So to answer your question, I think that if you have an opportunity to get a facility, I would highly recommend that. Now, the downside is that facilities are not cheap. So
right.
You got to see, okay, are we going to build from the ground up, or are we going to just go into a warehouse? And people got to realize that like Fry's, Bash's, all these stores that are available, you got to look at the pillars inside, because the pillars are usually 48 feet, which you need at least a 52 feet to have room on your courts. So there's a lot of little stuff that goes into, before you say, oh, I'm just going to open a gym. Now, there are gyms out there, and I won't name names, but there are gyms out there that are beautiful, that are absolutely beautiful. And, and there's 5, 6 courts, and they're doing a good job. I think that if I was to start a club program, I would probably try and find a place with 2 courts, because like the lab, because at the end of the day, your 2 courts, now it becomes your training. And now it becomes, you can do birthday parties there, and now you can there's a lot of other opportunities. Right now, I'm looking to get yoga into the lab right now. I'm time-wise, it's very, very difficult, because I've got everything, I've got basketball.
Right.
Yeah.
And
which is it's in a basketball facility. So,
right.
We're getting it done.
And there's strong demand. There's enough basketball taking place in the Valley that there's a demand, and finding quality facilities at times can be a challenge.
Especially, and sorry to interrupt you, especially with the COVID right now. It's these teams that were practicing at high schools and the high schools are closed down. It's really tough. And now, they've got to battle with the volleyball, because if we go to the same fall sports, then you got to realize you're going to have basketball, you're going to have volleyball, you're going to have all those activities that need that gym. So,
Absolutely. So let's talk real quick about trends. I think you're the perfect guy. You've been involved with youth basketball now for over 25 years. You run a facility. You've seen some of the best basketball talent over the past 20 years develop right in front of your eyes, and they go on to have successful college and some professional careers. What are some of the trends you see shaping the future of youth basketball on the business side? What do you see taking place on the business side that you think that will have a strong influence over the next 5, maybe 10 years with youth basketball?
Well, I don't think basketball is going away. It's a $1 billion industry.
Mm-hmm.
So 20 years ago, you maybe had 5 or 6 club programs in Arizona. Now,
really? Wow.
now you have. I've lost count how many you've had, but it's easily over 100, both boys and girls. So I think you're going to see more tournaments. You're going to see more leagues now. With the COVID and everything that's happened, I don't think you're going to see big tournaments where there's court facilities and there's 405 teams. I don't think that's going to happen for a few years. I think that you're going to see smaller events taking place, and just so we can follow the guidelines. Now, moving on with that, I think the biggest trend is going to be the prep schools. I think that the prep schools right now and if you follow it, you'll see all the top players, both boys and girls, are leaving their schools and going to prep schools to play.
Yes, I've been seeing, and particularly in Arizona, it seems like it's fertile ground for that.
Yeah, I think there's at least 7 or 8 prep schools in Arizona now, and obviously AZ Compass is right across the street from the lab, and they actually use the lab every day for their training, and it's really cool because on a particular day I might have 5 or 6 college coaches sitting in the lab, Michigan State, Louisville, just checking out these guys. So it's really interesting how that's changed up, and I think you're going to see a lot more of that. And people ask me, well, why do you think it is? And the bottom line is that if I'm a D1 player and I'm a really good player and I have an opportunity to play on a circuit where I'm playing competition every single night that's going to better my game, then why wouldn't I do that? And every college coach follows that. So why wouldn't I do that? Now, I'm not saying that there's some really good high school teams in Arizona. Millennium went last on the circuit, and they played a lot of out-of-state games, and they did very, very well.
They did.
So, But I just think I think that's going to be the trend, and you can see it now. You can see it now on the news and everything, where kids are leaving their schools and going to play on the prep circuit.
So it looks like, and that trend, you see it as a national trend as well?
Absolutely. Last 2 years ago we had the Mellow Ball, the balls at the hoop hall, and it was
bananas.
It was crazy because they had TV crew and they had a sign sitting by the dad, and the dad was he was really cool, but it was a spectacle. It was crazy. I mean, we had to close the doors. People were waiting in line to watch a basketball player.
High school basketball player.
A high school basketball player.
Which I think is one of the it's just one of the unique things about basketball. When that statement, ball is life, it's so true with basketball, and it's so true with our youth basketball, and it's amazing. And this could be in other sports. I don't follow other high school sports like I follow basketball, but there's a half dozen high school basketball players that have over 1 million followers legitimate followers on these social media sites, and they can a video clip of them online can drive several 100,000 views and following. So, and also with let me ask you this. So there's the other trend we're seeing, I think, that the prep school may influence is the creating of alternatives to the NCAA route, right? So we're familiar with the G League has created their offering. I don't know if you're aware that David West, the retired NBA player, was last with Indiana and then Golden State. He is developing a offering called the Collegiate Professional Basketball League, which is going to be targeted towards your 18 to 24-year-old college age person who, and they're offering both the opportunity to play professionally and get paid $50,000 to $100,000 plus, as well as covering your tuition for school. And then I've heard of a third offering. I don't recall the name of it, Justin. You might be aware of it because 3 of the kids that I read about are from Phoenix. I think Kyrie Walker was one of the kids that participated, but it's a service where they're training for a year. That's what they're doing. They're training for a year, getting ready for the draft, and then they're going to go through that whole process and submit themselves for the draft. What's your thoughts around that? I know your primary focus has been youth basketball, but can you see this trend that's taking place in prep trickle into an alternative offering to the NBA? I mean, not the NBA, alternative offering to the NCAA. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good opportunity, and I look at it like this. So in the tennis world, if you're a 14-year-old tennis player, you're getting paid to play and you're getting paid to compete. So the basketball players, now they have, with the G League and all these leagues that are coming up, now they have an opportunity where they're honing their games and they're going on and getting paid to do that. And my biggest thing is, if I'm a coach, okay, and I have to go and somebody, I'm going to recruit somebody that's going to be with me for 4 years, okay? Now, if I have a and I know he's going to be one and done, well, this gives him an opportunity to go and another avenue, which now opens up avenues for me as an NCAA coach to get these kids that, they might not be a first-round NBA draft pick.
Yeah, the tier 2, yeah.
Tier 2, absolutely. And I know that they're going to be with me more than 1 year. So for me, that's pros and cons to that. I mean, I think that if you're, Jennings ended up going and playing because he couldn't play, NCAA, something happened there, and he went over there and did it and played. So like I said, I think there's pros and cons. It depends who you talk with, but I think that it's a great opportunity for these kids.
I do too. And your statement brought something to mind I hadn't really thought about before, because my initial thought was we'll see a dilution of the quality of ball in the NCAA, but I don't think that's the case. What we might see is when you have that group of elite kids just foregoing the NCAA, doing something else, and you have kids that are tier 2 players in high school, because there's plenty of story of tier 2s that turn into tier 1 players late. Everyone's on a different developmental pipeline, that because you have now these teams that have been with a coach in a program for 4 years, we actually should see a better quality of basketball at times, and a more consistent quality of basketball at the collegiate level. May not be filled with the dynamic athletes like a Zion Williams, etc., but you never know. But I think you make a great point. I think actually both could survive, both could still put a good product on the floor. And I personally think that there is a space out there for a independent person, independent league to come out, pay these kids, and put a good enough product on the floor that they can monetize it to make it work. Because at the end of the day, you have people paying, you have networks paying money to watch high school kids play. Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. Justin, this has been an outstanding conversation. I really appreciate your time. You had shared with me recently that you had bought into another business. You're just out here hustling, rising and grinding. As we come to a close, why don't you take a moment and share with us a little bit about Catalina Nutrition? I want to give you an opportunity to plug Catalina Nutrition.
I appreciate that. So, and earlier in the conversation, you brought up a word purpose, and purpose sticks in my head. So, basketball is my passion. Mm-hmm. Getting people healthy is my purpose. And I literally, 2 years ago, I walked into this facility. I was literally going to pick up trophies. I walked into this facility, had a shake, and it changed my life. I dropped 26 pounds. I went in there every day, and it was just the environment and the attitude, the positive, the energy, the love. I would go in there in the morning before I'd go to basketball and just get energized for the whole day. And those of you that know me in the gym, I'm very, very energized. And so I just I had an opportunity to take ownership in this club, Catalina. It's 16th Street and Thomas, and we do smoothies, shakes, teas. It's unbelievable. It's healthy lifestyle, and I just think that it's real important that we start putting the right stuff in our body. I always say that our bodies are like cars, and if you don't change the oil, or if you don't take care of your car, well, guess what? It breaks down. And that's the same analogy I use for our bodies. So, you put stuff in your body, and, you wonder why your body's not breaking down, or you wonder why your body's breaking down. And I'll give you a story. So, it frustrated me before I took this over that, at the lab, I'd have kids come in, they play a game, come off, and they'd walk in with, McDonald's and Burger King. And then, they wonder, and the parents wonder why they're so sluggish. Well, right. It's what we put in our bodies. It's absolutely what we put in our bodies. So if we can start putting the right stuff in our bodies, you're going to feel you're going to feel better. And I'm a testament. I've lost 26 pounds. I'm feeling fantastic. I get up in the morning, and I'm ready to rock and roll.
Love it. Thank you, Justin. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming on the Basketball Remix podcast. I have some information to get over to you with regards to our conversation. Making great progress. Yes. Oh my God. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be revolutionary. So I'm excited that you're excited. I'm excited that we'll be launching this out of the lab, and I'm looking forward to that. So thank you, Justin, for coming on.
I appreciate the invite, and anytime you need me, give me a call.
You got it.
Thank you, sir.